People come to City Hall for a whole variety of reasons. They come to meet their elected representatives, to attend city council meetings, to pay their real estate taxes, their water bills. But they also come for reasons having to do with daily life, for birth certificates. Many people come here to be married in City Hall. So it's a place of mundane bureaucratic functions, but also of joy and happiness. Frederick Ringe inherited $3 million in about 1886. $3 million in 1886 was probably $100 million in today's money. He was a wealthy guy, and he could afford almost anything you could imagine, and he spent a great deal of his wealth on this building and other gifts to the city of Cambridge. Although he was from a New England family and grew up in Cambridge, was really attracted to California. And in 1887, he relocated to Los Angeles. When he got to California, Fred wrote back to the mayor and said, "I'd like to give Cambridge three major gifts, starting with a public library, and including a city hall and a technical school, a technical high school." The city, of course, agreed to accept these gifts. Ringe donated the land, interviewed the architects, or held competitions for architects, and hired the contractors, turned it over to the city when it was completed. Even though Ringe wanted this building to be simple, he didn't want it to be undecorated. He wanted it to be inspirational. He had this idea that civic buildings should teach civic lessons, and so there's an inscription on the front which talks about the role of the citizenry in a democracy, and then you're supposed to be impressed by the simplicity and strength of this building without being put off by its elaborate character. The stair is constructed of oak, as is all the paneling on the stair halls, and the columns and the carved column capitals are all of white American oak. The stairs themselves are hung on a sort of a truss system so that they appear to float between floors, but they're actually iron tie rods that support the landings and are tied back into the masonry structure of the building. So the main thing to know about the staircase in City Hall is that there's only one stair in the entire building, but there are no emergency stairs in City Hall. This is something that has concerned fire chiefs since 1890, and until 2 or 3 years ago we finally sprinklered the entire building. Otherwise, this entire stair hall would have had to have been enclosed with fireproof doors and automatic closers. This is the City Council chamber. This is the heart of City Hall. This room is in its original condition as it was completed in 1890 with its original furniture, almost all of which was made in furniture factories in East Cambridge and designed by the architect. The stenciling is not original to the room. It was added a little bit later. The donor of City Hall, Frederick Hastings Ringe, believed in government being modest and unostentatious, but it was a little too simple for the early city councilors, and after Ringe died, they added the red and cream stenciling to what had been plain painted walls and dressed it up a little bit. We're in the personnel office on the 3rd floor of City Hall, but this used to be the Common Council chamber. Cambridge used to have a mayor and 2 legislative bodies, a Common Council and a Board of Aldermen, who were elected by wards and occupied a 2-story space here until the city revised its form of government in 1916. Then this 2-story room was floored through to create offices, additional offices on the 3rd floor of the building. But they retained the original cornice, which is much more elaborate and much larger than would ordinarily be seen in an office like this, and the coffered ceiling, which is similar to the one next door in the City Council chamber. This is the mayor's parlor. It's where mayors have always welcomed guests and entertained important figures. This is the most elaborate room in the building. Ringe, the donor, insisted on the building being quite plain, but the mayor at the time he gave this building to the city, William E. Russell, was a childhood friend of his I'd have to think that this room is a little bit more elaborate because Ringe, who controlled every aspect of the design, was designing this room for his childhood buddy. The room has gone through several different iterations and decorative schemes. So 2 years ago, we found new wallpaper and worked with that, and the frieze above the wallpaper, it's absolutely appropriate for the period. Restored the sconces, the little lights around with the glass shades are period appropriate, and now the room looks much more like it would have done in 1890. This is what's technically called a tower clock because, of course, it's designed to be in a clock tower. It was made by the E. Howard Company about 1890 and has been in the building since it was built. So it's powered by weights. It has to be wound once a week. Someone comes up to the clock with a crank handle and cranks the weights back up to the top. All of this mechanism intended to convert the force of gravity into rotary motion that is transmitted to the four faces of the clock. So the bell weighs 2 tons. It was installed in the tower when the building was built. It was cast by the Manili Company of Troy, New York, and it has an inscription which was probably written by Ringe himself. It says, "Cheerfully I ring the hour from my house within the tower, but I would a lesson teach, even bells men's hearts may reach. The lesson, the ballot free and pure, the rights of all secure. Wrong finds antidote when each voter casts his vote." City Hall today is really the centerpiece of one of the most popular green spaces in Cambridge. On a sunny day, there are dozens of people who hang out on the lawn, or eating their lunches, or just hanging out, sunbathing. This is something that Frederick Hastings Ringe could not have possibly conceived of. So City Hall is not just a place where you come to pay your bills or pay your taxes or go to a lengthy public hearing. It's a place where you come to engage the life of the city as a whole.